In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my 2 biggest tips for dramatically improving your photography. Now these may be obvious to many of you, but they're the ones that I always talk about whenever anyone asks me how they can improve their own photography, so they definitely deserve to be repeated here again. So what do you think I'm going to say at this point? Kneel down more, use a tripod, put some mad filter on the front of your camera? Absolutely not a bit of it. Let's dive in. Learning. Now I can't stress this enough. Investing your time in learning more about photography is the single biggest thing you can do to improve your images in every single way. Now if you're just starting out with your first DSLR, then of course you need to know what those settings do. You need to learn about shutter speeds. You need to know what the difference is between taking an image at f1.4 or at f22. Now those are the fundamentals that you'll need to have to be able to master your camera. But it's not just about camera settings. Learning about composition, about use of angles, about controlling the light in a scene. It's when all of those things come together that your images stop being simple snaps and transform into pieces of art. Now I am quite often asked by enthusiastic photographers about what new bit of kit they should buy to upgrade from their standard kit lens. And I'll often have a look at their photos and talk to them about how they get some of them, and I'm frequently amazed at how many times people will tell me that they're just using the auto mode in their camera. They're going out snapping away but haven't got any idea of really how to control the camera at all. There's certainly no understanding of the effects of using different depth of fields or the effects of using a slow shutter speed over a faster one, because of course the camera just does all that for them. And their belief is that by just buying better equipment, buying a more expensive lens, is the thing which is going to give them professional looking photos. And of course, that just is not the case. So my answer is always very, very clear. Invest in yourself before you invest in your gear. And the great thing is that learning doesn't really need to cost you anything at all. YouTube is, of course, full of all kinds of great tips and tricks and tutorials from great photographers. I mean, of course, if you're here, then you probably know already about learning on YouTube. So I suppose I'm saying this mostly to those people who are here looking for that one big secret that will help transform your photos into Instagram-worthy art. The one big secret to any Instagrammer's success really is that they know how to capture a beautiful image. And this advice really doesn't apply to beginners alone. I don't care what level of photography you are, there is always something more you can learn to take your photography to the next level. You may be a 30-year veteran in the field, and of course by now you've really nailed your own style, you know all the tricks of composition, but the tools that you're using, the hardware and cameras and the software in the post-production is moving so quickly that there are always new techniques for you to learn. Now I am certainly no master, but I've been taking photos for 15 years and 8 of those have been professionally. But I still spend a lot of time on YouTube and on sites like F-Stoppers and Flern and Creative Live trying to learn new skills and enhance the ones that I've already got. Now many of these tutorials are paid for and some of them can be quite pricey. I have paid for at least a couple of £100 for individual courses before now, but I always come away feeling like I've learned an extra skill. So that money you've been putting aside for a pricey new lens, well, why don't you spend some of that on some professional tutorials instead? I do guarantee that that is the thing which is going to help transform your images way more than that new lens ever could. So let's move on to number 2. So how do you make sure that that knowledge you've just been smashing into your brain actually stays in there? You get out and you practice. I've always invested a lot of time in going out and practicing my photography, and just like the learning aspect, I really don't think you can ever do too much. Now for me that started out pretty simply. I remember when I got my first DSLR, Canon EOS 350D, very long time ago now. I did everything I can to go out and keep on shooting. I switched my camera into manual mode and I tried to take photos of everything I could, from my skateboarding friends to pigeons in the street or landscapes I found around in the Peak District. And every time I took a new shot, I got a better understanding of what the different settings were doing to to let me get that image. And now it's second nature, and I always shoot in manual mode, and I never struggle to think how I'm going to expose for a particular scene. If I'd have been shooting an auto that whole time, I'd have no idea. The same was true when it came to lighting. I remember one of the first weddings I shot. It was inside this old Art Deco cinema in West London, and it was a very, very beautiful location, but it was also incredibly dark inside. Now I knew here that just dropping my shutter speed or ramping up my ISO really wasn't going to work. I needed to use off-camera flash. Now I had used off-camera flash a little bit before, but certainly nothing in terms of the scope of a whole room, and certainly never under the demands of a wedding day. I was genuinely nervous for this photo shoot, but I knew that the only way I was going to get through it was by honing my lighting skills and making sure I knew everything I could about how to get the shots on the day. I ended up spending night after night at home or in the office practicing with my speed lights. I would light friends who were walking past, or I'd even get inanimate objects or a couple of stuffed toy bears on occasion, and I just experiment with using the light in different places and seeing how it all works together, controlling the aperture against the shutter speed, making sure that I knew exactly how those settings all play together. I even got in touch with a venue, and I went along a couple of times in between some of their actual showings of films, and I just hung out in there and tried different lighting setups and making sure that I knew exactly how to use my lights. So when it came to the big day, I knew what I was doing, and I was confident that I could get the shot, and even when things changed, I knew exactly how to switch things up and make sure that I was still shooting. And the result is now I have those skills, and I don't feel nervous going into new situations because I've learned as much as I have done about lighting. The same is very much true for Photoshop as well. Now, a lot of my work has always very much just been in Lightroom, a little bit of exposure and contrast correction here and there. But in car photography, Photoshop is a big must, and there are some very important techniques in there which a lot of car photography really demands, and I just didn't have those skills. So I hunted down any tutorial I could find, whether that was written down on a website or on YouTube or on some paid-for class, and I went back, re-edited old photos just to give myself the practice of using these new Photoshop skills. Again, I'm really not saying this has made me the best photographer in the world, but spending the time in practicing and learning these new skills has transformed my work far more than a new lens ever could. The downside, of course, is that it's not a quick process. Sadly, I can't give you that one simple, quick fix. It's said that it takes 10,000 hours to master a topic. So get started. The process really is all part of the fun, and remind yourself that with every shot that comes out not quite right, you're learning how to make your next shot as good as it can be. So thank you very much for watching this extremely talky video. I do hope it has been helpful. If you have liked this, then please leave your thoughts below, hit that like button and the subscribe button as well if you don't already, and I will see you next time.